Long ago, when the earth was still learning to hold its shape, there was a woman named Nneka. Her name meant Mother is Supreme. But here's the thing. She didn't inherit that power. She hunted for it. While other girls in her village sang and danced and learned to cook, Nneka climbed forbidden hills. She searched for things no one else could see. And after 7 years of searching, she found it. Deep in a ravine where the sun had never touched the earth, there stood a shrine, not built by human hands. Much older than that. The stone was black, smooth, and when you looked at the symbols carved into it, they would shift, change, like they were alive. In the center was a pool of water, so clear it didn't reflect what was above it. It reflected what had never been. What could be made to be, if only someone knew the words. Nneka knelt down, and the shrine, it whispered to her. Not with sound, with knowledge. It showed her that this was the place where the ancestor weavers had once gathered, where they stitched the destinies of all living things. And she understood in that moment that she could rewrite fate itself. Do you understand what that means? She could change anything. The first name she whispered was her own. By the next full moon, her family's failing trading post suddenly received the biggest order in years. Wealth came flooding in like a river after rain. Men became her friends. Rivals bowed to her. She walked through the village like a woman made of light. But that was just the beginning. She went back to the shrine. Again and again and again. She whispered the name of her enemy, a woman named Chioma who had married the man Nneka wanted. And Nneka, she didn't curse her. No, she erased her. She unspooled the threads of destiny and rewrote them. Now, in this new version of reality, Chioma had run away to a distant land. The man, he only remembered marrying Nneka. The village elders nodded. Of course they had always been married. They forgot Chioma existed. For 3 years, this continued. A rival trader who insulted her father, erased into poverty. A cousin with a better harvest, she made his fields fail again and again until he abandoned them. An old boy who chose another girl over her at a festival, when she was just a girl, she reached back through time and rewrote his memory, his choice, her dignity, restored. Every day, she felt more powerful. Every night, she slept deeper. The shrine had woven itself into her thoughts like a lover she returned to again and again. But listen, the earth remembers. The village of Amara prospered, and no one asked why. The crops grew full. Children were born healthy. Traders brought back treasures. But people started moving strangely. A man would stop mid-sentence and look confused. Where was he? Why was he here? A woman would reach for her child and hesitate. Was this her child? Then the dreams started. The whole village dreamed the same dreams. In one dream, a farmer was a warrior. In another, a child was an elder. When they woke up, they wept, and they didn't know why. It was as though something deep inside them, something they couldn't name, knew they had been changed, that their strings had been pulled, that they weren't entirely themselves anymore. The diviners came and found nothing wrong. The healers came and found no sickness. The priests performed rituals, but even as they prayed, they felt it. The strangeness inside themselves. Only Nneka moved through the village untouched, unmoved, like she was dreaming a dream she controlled, and everyone else was trapped inside it. But power, like fire, consumes the hand that holds it. One night, Nneka couldn't sleep. She remembered something she had tried very hard to forget. Years ago, when she was just a girl, before the shrine, a boy pushed her into the dirt. In front of everyone, she fell in the mud. The whole village stared, and the shame. She had erased so much from reality. Why not erase this? Why not reach back and change it so it never happened? Before dawn, she went to the shrine. She knelt at the pool, and she tried to change her own past. The shrine went cold, not winter cold. This was the cold of something ancient waking up, seeing her, truly seeing her, maybe for the first time. The water turned from clear to black. The symbols glowed, not with light, but with the absence of light, like they were swallowing all the brightness around them. And a voice whispered through the ravine, "You cannot change what was done to you. You can only change what you do next." Nneka tried to pull her hands away, but they wouldn't move. The shrine began to spin, or maybe the earth did. And suddenly, she was standing at the edge of her village on the morning of that old shame. She was a girl again, small, new, and she could feel it coming. The boy, the push, the mud, the eyes of everyone watching, the burning on her face. She opened her mouth to run, to hide, to change this moment like she had changed all the others. But her voice wouldn't come, and the moment happened. Exactly as it had before. The boy pushed her. She fell. The mud, the shame burned, and then, just like before, it ended. Except it didn't end. It began. Again, the boy pushed her. The mud, the stairs, the shame. Again and again and again, she was trapped, like a fly in amber, living the same moment over and over for what felt like forever. She tried to speak, to change something, to rewrite it, but the shrine had locked her out of the power. She could only watch, only suffer, the same instant repeating, like waves on a beach that never reached the shore. Time stopped meaning anything. Days, years, centuries, it all dissolved. The shame and the falling, they became her. And in that endless moment, Nneka understood. Fate isn't a thread to be woven. It's a dance that must be danced. The moment she was ashamed of, it was real, it happened, and it could not be unmade. All those times, she had rewritten other people's destinies. She had been trying to do something impossible. Make the world match the perfect image in her mind, become a god. And gods do not get to be human. In her despair, or maybe in her surrender, she did something she had never done before. She didn't try to change the moment. She didn't try to escape. She just sat down in the mud and she wept. She wept for the girl she had been, for the shame that had shaped her, for everyone in Amara, whose destinies she had rewritten, whose lives she had bent to match her hunger for control. She wept until there were no more tears left. And when the tears ran dry, the moment finally ended. Nneka found herself back at the shrine. But she was no longer young. Her hands were old. Her hair was white. Her body bent and small. The years she had lived in that endless moment, they had aged her in ways time could never do. She looked at her reflection in the pool, and she saw a face she didn't recognize. Not created, not controlled, but a face that had lived through shame and hunger, and finally learned what hunger destroys. She understood, without being told, that the shrine would never answer her again. The power had closed itself to her. She left the ravine. Her legs were weak. The light hurt her eyes. When she climbed out and saw her village again, it had changed. The prosperity was gone. The strange dreaminess in people's eyes faded. The houses were simpler. People moved naturally again. But something was different too, something subtle. The people of Amara, they looked more kind to each other. Like waking from a nightmare had made them grateful just to be together. Nneka walked slowly through the village. No one recognized her. She was old now. She was no one, just a woman with white hair and tired eyes. She found her father sitting outside, looking at the sky. He didn't recognize her. She sat down beside him. "Forgive me," she said. Her father didn't know what he was forgiving. He just reached over and took her hand. As the sun set that night, Nneka finally understood. The greatest power had never been in the shrine. It had been in the moment when she stopped trying to change what had happened and simply, finally, let herself be changed by it. In the months that followed, she moved through Amara like a woman rebuilding herself from ash. She had nothing now. No wealth, no power over anyone's destiny. She was ordinary, forgettable, powerless. And it was the most beautiful thing she had ever known. She spent her days helping others. The woman she had replaced as a wife, somehow, that woman had reappeared in Amara, confused and hurt. Nneka served her. No questions, no judgment. The traders she had ruined looked at her with suspicion when she tried to help them rebuild. She didn't ask for their trust. She just worked. The children who had known her as a powerful woman, now they knew her as an old woman who told stories, not about power, about how to live with what you cannot change. One day, a young girl came to her. "Is it true?" the girl asked. "Did you really have a shrine that could change destiny?" Nneka smiled. Not a smile of power, a grandmother's smile. "Yes," she said. "I found it, deep in a ravine where no sunlight goes. And I learned to use it. I changed many things. I made myself powerful. I made myself rich. I made the world match the shape of my desires." "And did it make you happy?" the girl asked. Nneka took the girl's hand in her old hands. "No," she said, "but it taught me what happy was. Happiness is not having the power to change the world. Happiness is being able to change yourself. It's accepting what has been and choosing what comes next. It's letting go of the stories you wanted to be true and learning to love the story that is actually being lived." The girl didn't understand everything, but she understood that the old woman was telling her something true. And Nneka, in her remaining years, became a keeper of stories. Not the stories she had tried to create, but the stories that were real. The stories of people who had lived through confusions they didn't understand, who felt themselves change in ways they couldn't control, who woke up from a kind of dreaming. She helped them understand. She helped them forgive. She helped them remember who they actually were beneath all the destinies that had been written and rewritten and written again. And when she finally died, when she was ready to let go of the world she had tried so hard to control, the people of Amara held a wake that lasted 3 days. They didn't speak of her power. They spoke of her kindness, of the old woman who sat with the lonely, who helped the lost find their way home, who taught them that the greatest freedom is not controlling fate, but accepting it. Some say on certain nights, when the moon is full, you can still see the shrine. Deep in that ravine, the black stone, the shifting symbols, the clear pool of water. And they say, if you're foolish enough to try to use it, if you're hungry enough for power to kneel before it, you will see a reflection in the pool. And it will be the face of a woman with white hair, sitting beside her father, holding his hand as the sun sets, and you will understand then that the only destiny worth having is the one you did not choose, but learn to love. And that is why we say the person who controls everything controls nothing, but the person who has learned to live with what they cannot control, that person is free.